Welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're putting on a very specific set of glasses. Think of it like looking through a green lens. You see, in the modern financial world, analysts are constantly searching for ways to isolate and truly measure sustainable revenue in a company's portfolio. We all know that sustainability is a massive buzzword right now, but how do you actually account for it on a balance sheet, especially in a complex, fast-moving sector like electrical and electronic equipment manufacturing? Well, that is exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Okay, let's dive right in. The absolute ultimate challenge for any financial analyst or investor today is avoiding greenwashing. Because honestly, it's incredibly easy for a company to just say they're going green. It is much, much harder to actually prove it with concrete, trackable financial metrics. How do you put a hard dollar value on eco-design? How do you know for sure if a company's environmental initiatives are genuinely translating into market share and overall financial health? Well, the good news is we don't have to guess. There's a highly structured, rigorous methodology for this, and we're going to walk through it step by step.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the SASB standard framework, then look at product lifecycle management, tracking declarable substances, energy efficiency certifications, renewable energy revenues, and finally, wrap up with the green revenue bottom line.
Part 1. The SASB Standard Framework, Grounding Our Analysis.
Look, if we're going to measure sustainability accurately, we absolutely need a universal language. And the official playbook used globally is the SASB standards, which are now under the stewardship of the International Sustainability Standards Board, or ISSB. Drilling down into the specific electrical and electronic equipment standard, we aren't just talking about nice-to-have environmental goals here. We are talking about standardized metrics used by major entities and investors to identify real risks and opportunities, things that directly impact a company's cash flows and financial materiality.
Moving to Part 2, Product Lifecycle Management. Why the use phase matters.
Out of all the sustainability topics covered by SASB, we're really zeroing in on the environmental footprint of products during their actual use phase. As the standard itself notes, regulations are incentivizing entities to reduce or eliminate the use of harmful chemicals in their products. So companies that are developing cost-effective, energy-efficient solutions with reduced chemical safety concerns, they directly benefit from increased revenue and enhanced brand value. In a fiercely competitive global industry like electronics manufacturing, shrinking your environmental footprint translates literally into grabbing market share.
Part 3, Tracking Declarable Substances, the RTEE 410A.1 metric.
So this first specific metric filter isolates potential toxic risks that might be hiding in a company's product portfolio. It relies on a benchmark known as IEC 62474. Basically, think of it as a master list of substances that are flagged for mandatory reporting if they appear in products above specific thresholds within the electrotechnical industry. Companies are totally required to discuss how they manage these declarable substances, and that includes their product design criteria and their procurement guidelines. Because if a company doesn't know what's in its own supply chain, it's carrying a massive, hidden regulatory and financial risk.
Now, how do we actually calculate this financial risk? The math is wonderfully straightforward. You just take the revenue from products sold that contain these IEC 62474 declarable substances, and you divide it by the total revenue from all products sold. That simple calculation gives you the percentage of a company's revenue that is fundamentally tied to highly regulated, potentially harmful materials. And a high percentage? Yeah, that's a giant red flag for future regulatory costs or outright market rejection.
Part 4, Energy Efficiency Certifications, the RTEE 410A.2 metric. Here, we add a brand new filter to focus on exactly how much power a product consumes. This metric tracks energy efficiency certifications. You calculate it by dividing the revenue from products that meet strict certifications by the total revenue from products that are actually eligible for those certifications. What do we mean by eligible? We're talking uninterruptible power supplies, your standard commercial HVAC systems, lighting, and fans. This metric tells an investor, plain as day, exactly how well a company's commercial and consumer products are keeping up with global energy demands. Part 5, Renewable Energy Revenues, the RTEE 410A.3 metric. This third and final metric isolates revenues derived directly from clean energy infrastructure. We have to starkly contrast standard consumer-level equipment like HVAC and lighting against heavy-duty clean energy infrastructure solutions. We are talking about the big stuff: smart grids, turbine controllers, relays, and solar PV fuses. Metric 3 captures the revenue from systems that actually enable the inclusion of renewable energy into the established grid.
We're moving from simply making a more efficient fan to literally building the modern, intelligent energy grid.
And you know, the standard has remarkably strict rules for what counts as renewable revenue here. You include integration technologies, things like smart inverters, SCADA systems, and switchgears. But you strictly exclude the actual power generation hardware itself, like wind turbines and solar photovoltaic modules. Why? Because the electrical and electronic equipment standard is focused squarely on the integration equipment. It cares about the central nervous system of the grid, not the massive spinning blades catching the wind. Furthermore, this third metric also captures products that increase energy efficiency in a truly meaningful way during their use phase. We're talking smart home intelligent building controls, distribution automation, and low-loss transformers. The standard is very explicit about this. It completely excludes products that only impart minimal or indirect improvements. So, if a company simply makes a conventional product slightly lighter than the previous generation, that doesn't count. The upgrade absolutely must be meaningful and tested to show a true increase in efficiency.
Which brings us to Part 6, the green revenue bottom line, putting it all together.
So, we've applied 3 distinct filters to the balance sheet today, perfectly illustrating the core philosophy of the SASB standard for this industry. When you combine reduced chemical risk with increased energy efficiency in standard products, and then add in cutting-edge renewable integration revenues, you get an incredibly clear mathematical picture of a company's future. The standard explicitly states that entities mastering these areas benefit from stronger competitive positioning and enhanced brand value. It's a direct, literal translation of environmental stewardship into long-term financial health and minimized regulatory liability.
So, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative question today. How does your organization's revenue, or maybe the revenue of the companies in your investment portfolio, actually stand up to the RTE 410A green lens? If you stripped away all the slick marketing and just ran the hard math on declarable substances and eligible efficiency certifications, what percentage of that revenue is truly ready for the future economy? It's a question every informed professional and investor really needs to be asking right now. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep looking through that green lens.